You've been waiting for confirmation, for clarity, for some kind of sign that everything you've endured hasn't been in vain. You've walked through sleepless nights, through prayers that seemed to echo into silence, through seasons that made you question whether God even remembered your name. But you need to know, even when the answers were delayed, you were never denied. Even when you were silent, heaven was speaking over you. Even when the world overlooked you, God had his eye on you. Every tear you cried watered the ground of your next breakthrough. Every sacrifice you made when no one else was watching became seed for the harvest that's about to unfold. You see, the reboot of your life is not just for your comfort, it's for your calling. God is not bringing you into a season of restoration simply so you can say, I made it. No, it's deeper than that. He's about to bless you in such a profound way that others will begin to believe again because of what he's doing in you. Your life will become a living testimony. You will be the evidence that God still moves, still heals, still restores, still makes a way where there was none. Your story will speak to people who have almost given up. They'll look at you and see what grace looks like in motion. There are miracles attached to your obedience. There are generations attached to your faith. Some of the doors that are about to open won't just be for you. They'll be for everyone connected to you. You've been carrying a weight, walking faithfully, even when it didn't make sense. And now the same God who saw you in secret is about to reward you in public. Not because of luck, not because you manipulated your way in, but because your heart stayed soft, your knees stayed bent, and your hopes stayed alive even when everything else was falling apart. Let me tell you something that may surprise you. What felt like the end was actually the beginning. That breakdown you had, it was the setup for a breakthrough. That rejection, it was God's protection. That closed door, it was never meant to open because it wasn't built to carry the weight of your purpose. God's not bringing you back to where you used to be. He's taking you somewhere entirely new. And the beauty is, he's going to redeem everything you lost along the way. You didn't lose time. You were being trained. You didn't miss your window. You were being refined. This reboot is heaven's response to every hidden yes you gave God. Every time you forgave when you didn't want to. Every time you stayed quiet instead of retaliating. Every time you worshiped when you were in pain. Every time you gave when you barely had enough for yourself. All of that is about to be honored in ways you couldn't have imagined. You're not being overlooked. You're being prepared for overflow. This kind of reboot doesn't happen for everyone. It comes to the ones who endure, who stay faithful when it's not easy, who keep believing when they have every reason not to. That's who you didn't even realize it, but you've been walking through divine fire, being shaped, purified, stripped of every identity that was never yours to begin with. And now what's left is the version of you God always intended to show the world. Not the wounded one, not the fearful one, not the version that had to pretend to be okay, but the healed, whole, powerful version of you that can carry the weight of glory with humility and strength. Get used to things shifting quickly. Get used to favor finding you in places you didn't perceive. Get used to restoration showing up in places you thought were long dead. The pace is about to accelerate. What took others 10 years will take you 1. What you thought was going to take a lifetime will happen in a matter of months. Because God is not limited by time. He's not bound by logic. He doesn't need approval from people to do what he's about to do in your life. Some will be shocked by your rise. Some will question how you got here. But don't waste your breath trying to explain it. Just walk with integrity. Let your fruit speak for itself. Let your peace do the talking. Because when God moves, he doesn't need a press release. He doesn't need applause. He just does what only he can do and lets the evidence be so loud that no one can deny his hand was all over it. If you're feeling the pressure right now, it's because something new is being born. You're in spiritual labor, and that's why everything feels intense. The enemy wouldn't be fighting you so hard if there wasn't something worth protecting on the other side. He's not attacking you because of where you are. He's attacking you because of where you're headed. But the pressure won't last forever. The pain won't define you. The contractions are necessary. They're pushing something new into existence. And when the moment comes, when the reboot is complete, you'll look around and wonder how it happened so fast. You'll look back at every dry season, every disappointment, every betrayal, and you'll see it differently. Not as something that broke you, but as something that built you. Not as something to resent, but something that revealed God's hand in ways you didn't see at the time. The pain won't control you anymore. The past won't speak louder than the promise. You'll stand in the new place with peace in your heart, joy in your spirit, and fire in your bones. God's not just giving you a blessing. He's making you into one. You are the answer to someone else's prayer. You are the miracle walking into the room. You are the one who will shift atmospheres and bring light where there has only been darkness. And not because you're perfect, but because you're surrendered. Because you dared to believe when it didn't make sense. Because you trusted him with your ashes and now he's giving you beauty. You're not going to have to fight for what's yours. You won't have to strive. You won't have to manipulate. What's coming is already finished in the spirit. You're just catching up to it in the natural. The tables are turning. The tide is shifting. And what once felt like loss will soon feel like launch. Every divine reboot starts with surrender. So if you're tired, that's okay. If you feel weak, that's okay. You don't have to have it all together to step into what's next. You just have to be willing to let go of what no longer fits, willing to release the need to understand everything, willing to trust God's timing over your own. Because when he moves, he doesn't need your control. He needs your yes. There are people you haven't met yet who are already praying for someone like you. There are opportunities being prepared that have your name on them. There are breakthroughs on the way that will make you forget the struggle it took to get there. Not because it wasn't real, but because the joy that's coming will be so complete, it'll overshadow the pain of the process. So don't settle now. Don't shrink back. Don't let temporary feelings distract you from eternal purpose. You're closer than you think. The tipping point is near. The reboot is in motion, and nothing, no person, no lie, no delay can stop what God has ordained. This is the part of the story where everything changes. This is where the waiting ends and the wonder begins. This is where prayers become reality and promises come to life. This is where you wake up and realize you're not dreaming. God really did it. And when you get there, don't forget the journey. Don't forget the nights you almost gave up. Don't forget the grace that held you together. Let it keep you humble. Let it keep you grateful. Because the same God who's rebooting your life today will sustain you tomorrow. This isn't a one-time miracle. This is a lifestyle of divine movement. You're entering a rhythm of favor, a flow of provision, a cycle of peace. It's not hype. It's not luck. It's divine alignment. And the only reason you're here to see it unfold is because God still has plans for you. You're not too far gone. You're not too broken. You're not too late. You're right on time. So lift your head, dry your tears, open your heart again, get your hopes up. The old is gone. The former things are passing away. Behold, he is doing a new thing, and it's not coming, it's here. God is rebooting your life in a way that defies explanation. Let it happen. There comes a moment in life when the ground starts to shift under your feet. Not in fear, but in preparation. Everything begins to feel unfamiliar. What once satisfied no longer does. What once made sense now leaves you with more questions than answers. That's not confusion, it's divine movement. God is stirring things up because something extraordinary is about to begin, and it won't follow any of the usual rules. It won't align with logic, schedules, or the expected path. This is the kind of shift that only heaven can initiate. A divine reboot is imminent, so close you can feel it in your spirit, even if your mind can't make sense of it. This reboot won't be something you can trace or explain. You won't be able to give a step-by-step story that people can follow. It won't be the result of your effort or the product of careful planning. It will come from places you didn't look, through people you didn't expect, and in timing that defies every forecast you've been told. One day you'll look around at your life and realize you didn't get here through strategy. You got here through surrender, and that will be the only explanation you can give. God has a way of moving so suddenly, so completely, that it leaves no room for credit to be claimed. That's exactly what's coming. Not a subtle improvement, not a slow fade into a better situation. What's ahead is a total divine interruption, a holy rearranging, a reset so profound that you'll almost forget the weight of what came before. But you'll carry the wisdom of it. The pain you walked through won't be wasted. It will be transformed into insight, strength, and grace for the new places you're being called to. What's coming won't feel familiar, because it's not supposed to. This is not a return to where you were before you fell apart. This is not God putting the pieces back together in the old pattern. He's doing something altogether new. And because it's new, it may look strange at first. You may even feel unqualified or unsure. But that's exactly where God shines, in the unexpected, in the unexplained, in the impossible. That's how you'll know it's Him. You didn't miss your moment. You didn't mess up your destiny. Nothing in your past is powerful enough to cancel what God is about to do. In fact, He's going to use every broken moment as proof that He alone can bring beauty out of ashes. You'll look back and realize that every delay, every closed door, every disappointment was the exact tool God used to position you for the new thing He had prepared all along. This isn't just a comeback. It's a complete transformation. The kind that no one saw coming. Not even you. The kind that doesn't just change your situation, it redefines your life. And when it arrives, all you'll be able to say is, only God could have done this. You've walked through things that others will never fully understand. You've cried silent tears, endured betrayal, carried disappointment, and pressed on with a smile when your heart was breaking. You've wondered at times why God allowed certain doors to close, why some people left, why the prayers you whispered in desperation seemed to go unanswered. You may have even questioned your worth or assumed you were being punished for something. Some failure, some misstep, something from your past you can't quite forget. But hear this truth with clarity. Your past pain was never punishment. It was preparation. Every single struggle, every delay, every loss was allowed not to destroy you, but to shape you into someone stronger, deeper, wiser, and more anchored in faith than ever before. God never wastes pain. He doesn't stand back passively while you suffer. He's never indifferent to your tears. In fact, He's been working behind the scenes in ways you couldn't see, using your pain as a tool, not to punish you but to equip you. You weren't being crushed. You were being refined. You weren't forgotten. You were being focused. You weren't being rejected. You were being redirected to something far greater than you imagined. All along, what felt like defeat was actually divine design. You see, some lessons can't be learned in comfort. Some growth only happens in dark, unfamiliar places. Just like a seed planted in soil, everything necessary for transformation happens in the unseen. It's underground, it's silent, it's lonely, but it's also essential. If you hadn't been buried in pain, you wouldn't have developed roots deep enough to support what God is about to grow in your life. If you hadn't been stripped of certain things, you wouldn't have room to receive what He's about to give. Your loss wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something sacred. It's hard to see it when you're in the middle of it. It's hard to believe that something beautiful can come from seasons that broke you. But look at where you are. You're still standing, still breathing, still hoping, even if quietly. That alone is proof that grace was holding you together. You didn't survive by accident. You were being carried through. And now every scar has become part of your story, not as a symbol of what hurt you, but as evidence of what didn't defeat you. God allows pain, not to shame you, but to position you. The deeper the pain, the deeper the purpose. What nearly destroyed you prepared you to carry what's next. You've gained compassion. You've developed discernment. You've learned how to pray when words failed, and all of that will serve you in the season you're about to enter. The fire didn't burn you, it forged, and now you're ready for what's coming. Not because life has been easy, but because you've been prepared in ways that no comfort zone could ever teach you. The pain had a purpose, and now the purpose is about to be revealed. There's a shift happening, one so profound and total that when it's finished you won't be able to recognize who you were before it began. This isn't a subtle change. This isn't about tweaking the edges of your life or fine-tuning a few habits. What's coming is a divine overhaul, a complete and irreversible transformation. God is not simply improving your situation. He is redefining your identity, your environment, and your entire trajectory. When the shift is complete, you'll look around and realize that nothing is the same, and yet everything is finally right. This kind of shift doesn't just affect one area. It touches everything: your mindset, your relationships, your faith, your vision, your purpose. What once worked for you will no longer satisfy. Conversations you used to entertain won't hold your attention. Places you used to find comfort will no longer. People who once had influence in your life will begin to fall away, not out of conflict, but because the vibration of your calling has changed. You're being elevated, and not everyone is called to go with you. That's not something to grieve, it's something to bless. Because where God is taking you requires clean hands, a clear mind, and an open spirit. God's shift is never random, it's precise. He doesn't remove without replacing. He doesn't uproot without planting. He doesn't end a chapter without having already written the next one. What may feel like loss in the moment is often just room being made for the greater that's coming. The shift you're stepping into is going to be so life-changing that you'll thank God for the doors that closed, for the people who walked away, for the detours that once frustrated you, because now you'll see it clearly, without confusion. Those things weren't setbacks, they were setups. And when God completes this shift, you won't have to force anything. The things you used to chase will start to find you. Favor will begin to follow you. Opportunities will come not because you fought for them, but because you were aligned for them. That's what happens when you live in the flow of a divine shift. Things start moving on your behalf. Things that were once locked will be opened. Things that were once delayed will be released. Things that were once broken will be made whole. This shift won't be temporary. It won't be emotional. It will be anchored in the spirit, and it will be sustained by grace. God isn't just changing your surroundings, He's changing you. And when you change, everything around you will respond. You'll start making decisions with clarity, not fear. You'll start walking in confidence, not insecurity. You'll stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand your calling. And you'll do it all without guilt, because you'll know deep in your spirit this is the life you were always meant to live. The change won't just be visible, it'll be undeniable. It will be the kind of shift that can't be reversed. Because once God moves you, you don't go. Once He transforms you, the old version of you can no longer survive in the new season. This shift is complete. This shift is permanent. And this shift is just the beginning. There's a pace coming that you won't be able to plan for, predict, or explain. God is about to accelerate things in your life in a way that will leave you in awe. The slow seasons, the long delays, the endless waiting, none of it was wasted. But now the atmosphere is changing. The waiting is giving way to a sudden move of God. Things that seemed stuck will start shifting. Prayers that lingered in silence will be answered without warning. Opportunities you thought were years away will show up in days. What took others decades will begin unfolding for you in moments. Because when God decides to accelerate your life, time bends to His will. This isn't about skipping the process. It's about supernatural timing. You didn't miss your preparation. You've already been through it. All the nights you cried yourself to sleep. All the moments you stayed faithful with no audience. All the quiet obedience. All the internal healing. The pruning. The surrender. It counted. Heaven took notice. And now what felt like endless wandering is about to become divine momentum. Acceleration doesn't come to those who are perfect. It comes to those who are positioned. And that's what you've been doing. Even when you didn't know it. You were aligning your spirit. You were uncluttering your heart. You were releasing the weight of things that couldn't go with you. And now that you've been emptied of the unnecessary, God can fill you with purpose, clarity, and power. What used to take all your strength will suddenly happen with ease, not because you've mastered it, but because grace has gone ahead of you. You'll begin to walk through doors you didn't even knock on. You'll start receiving calls and connections that weren't on your radar. You'll see resources multiply where there used to be lack. It won't make sense to the people around you. And truthfully, it won't even make sense to you, but you'll feel it deep in your spirit. This is the hand of God. This is divine acceleration. This is what favor feels like when it arrives on time, in full force. There's a speed that only heaven can orchestrate, a pace that defies experience, education, and explanation. That's what you're stepping into. It's not hype. It's not coincidence. It's fulfillment. And the beauty of it is that it will feel like suddenly to you, but it's been in motion the entire time. What you saw as delay was actually alignment. What you called silence was God working behind the scenes, setting everything in place. This kind of acceleration doesn't require you to strive. It requires you to trust. It's not your hustle that's going to make this happen. It's your posture, your yielded spirit, your surrendered heart. You won't have to force what's meant for you. You won't have to convince people to see your value. When God accelerates a thing, He brings everything and everyone into place, and He does it in such a way that you'll have no doubt it was Him all along. So prepare yourself, not with anxiety, but with expectancy. Get ready for movement. Get ready for divine timing to meet your obedience. Get ready to walk into rooms you never imagined. You're about to experience what it feels like when heaven says, you may not realize it yet, but your life is becoming a living, breathing testimony of God's grace, power, and faithfulness. Everything you've endured, every battle, every delay, every heartbreak, every moment when you thought you wouldn't make it, has been shaping a story that only God could write. You didn't survive by accident. You didn't come through by your own strength. You've been carried, held, preserved. And now the same life that was once marked by pain and struggle is being transformed into undeniable evidence that God is real and active. There are people watching you, some silently, some closely, who are about to witness what it looks like when God turns a life around. Not because you're perfect, but because you're surrendered. Not because you've done everything right, but because you kept showing up. You kept believing, even when belief was hard. You kept moving forward, even when the path was unclear. And now the breakthrough you're stepping into won't just bless you. It will inspire faith in others. Your testimony will unlock something in them. They'll see the turnaround in your life and begin to believe that if God did it for you, He can do it for them too. Your testimony won't be rooted in comfort or ease. It will carry weight because it's real. You'll be able to say, I know what it's like to be broken. I know what it's like to doubt. I know what it's like to wait. But you'll also be able to say, I know what it's like to be I know what it's like to be healed. I know what it's like to be redeemed. And that duality, being honest about where you've been, while boldly walking in where you're going, will make your voice powerful. Not loud, but impactful. Not flashy, but authentic. God doesn't waste a single part of your story, even the things you wish never happened. He's weaving them into something holy. The rejection, the shame, the hidden battles you thought disqualified you. They're becoming the very tools God will use to connect you to others. What once isolated you will now be the bridge that draws people in. You won't have to convince anyone of who God is. They'll see it in how you live, how you speak, how you love, and how you rise. This transformation isn't just about what you gain. It's about what others will see through you. You are becoming the answer to someone's silent prayer. You're becoming proof that joy is possible again, that peace is still attainable, that new beginnings aren't just for perfect people. They're for real people who dare to keep believing. The light in you is no longer dimmed by what you've been through. In fact, it shines brighter because of it. So walk boldly, speak with authority, carry your story with honor, not shame, because it's not a story of defeat. It's a story of victory. Your life is becoming a living testimony, and through you others will believe again. There's a powerful truth that underpins every breakthrough, and divine intervention, surrender, and expectance. These two aren't just concepts. They are the posture of your heart that unlocks God's supernatural work in your life. Without surrender, there's resistance. Without expectancy, there's doubt. Together they create the space where God's impossible becomes possible, where the invisible becomes visible, and where the delay turns into divine timing. Surrender doesn't mean giving up or losing hope. It means letting go of control, releasing your grip on how things should happen, and trusting that God knows better than you do. It's the willingness to say, not my will, but yours. When you surrender, you're not stepping down, you're stepping into a higher place of trust. It's in surrender that God can move freely, because you're no longer fighting against his plan or timing. You're no longer tethered to your own understanding or expectations. You make room for him to work in ways you couldn't orchestrate on your own. But surrender alone isn't enough. It must be paired with expectancy. Expectancy is the confident anticipation that what God has promised will come to pass. It's the quiet knowing that the wait is worth it. Expectancy is the faith that stirs in your spirit, even when your circumstances say otherwise. It's the hope that refuses to be extinguished by delays or setbacks. When you expect, you're not passively waiting, you're actively believing, preparing your heart and positioning yourself to receive. Together, surrender and expectancy create a powerful dynamic. You surrender your fears, doubts, and control, and you expect God to show up in ways beyond your imagination. This posture invites miracles, opens doors, and moves mountains. It aligns your spirit with God's timing, and it keeps your heart ready to receive the yes that may come suddenly or gradually, but always at the perfect moment. The key is to hold these two things gently. Don't cling to your plans or try to force outcomes, but don't fall into despair or resignation either. Instead, live in the tension of surrendering fully while expecting fully. This is where faith thrives. This is where the impossible begins to unfold. As you prepare for the reboot God is about to bring, remember your job isn't to control or figure everything out. Your job is to trust and to expect. Trust that God's ways are higher than yours. Expect that he is working all things together for your good. Keep your heart open, your spirit yielded, and your eyes fixed on the promise. When you surrender and expect, you position yourself to experience God's power like never before. You create a fertile ground where the unexplained can take root and flourish. And that's when the divine reboot begins. When heaven touches earth in a way that defies explanation, but leaves no doubt.